Hello everyone and welcome back to some more reverse engineering learning. Today we're going to be looking at input injection number 1 for Pico CTF, which is a medium binary exploitation that when we start the instance, I've downloaded it, but we're given a copy of the source code as well as the binary itself. And so let's have a look. There's just a little binary that asks for your name, repeats back goodbye your name, and then it looks like it runs something here, which for the keen-eyed people it would actually be what's it called? Uname? I forget, that's the one. Cool. So if we look at the source code, it sort of confirms our suspicion. Also, just when we have a look through checksec, nothing too of interest. So this sort of smells like very much like a buffer overflow sort of situation. You get to here, asks for our name, does a little bit of hacking and slashing with the input, and then calls this function where it gets past the original name buffer as well as the word uname. And then down here in fun, we can see the name that gets passed in and the command. So we have two buffers here, a C and then a buffer. So we load the command string copy into here, and we also string copy the name into this buffer here. We know that string copy is dangerous because it'll continue to read until we get a null terminator. So look here, double check. So, but yeah, it's dangerous, ripe for exploitation. So the goal here is, we'll just show you for example, if we just send a dummy payload, and run it. We can see that we hit a seg fault, so that certainly means that we have a buffer overflow and we're reading way too much. We also see this interesting output here that we get greeted with this goodbye message, but then we can also see that some of the malformed input is what's being passed into that system call down here. So that you can see SHA and saying A is not actually a real program, because normally when you're doing this you pass into system bin bash. Cool. So it looks like we have to craft a payload that explicitly allows us to end up with bin bash in the system part here. And so the way we do that is, let's have a look at when we breakpoint it. So we got to somehow get these two buffers. We have to get string copy, enough of it into here, and let's have a look. Let's follow along with that assembly, because that's quite important to know that even though that these two in the source code that these two buffers are placed here, it doesn't necessarily guarantee that that'll be the order they're in when it's compiled. So let's just confirm our suspicion. We'll change this back to here. So let's open it up here, and let's step into some of these instructions. So we notice here that this is the first string copy command here, as we know, when we have a look at string copy, the first argument is the destination buffer that it's put into. So this will be the address of this one here, so this C, which is this address here, the first argument passed to it. And I'll just take a photo of it so we can keep track of it. So this here is the destination for C. And then if we follow along and look at the next string copy, you can see that this 2F4C, this one here, is this buffer here. And so what we want in our case is we want the address of this buffer part here to be less than the C, so we can write into that contiguous section. So if we open this one up and I'll pull this picture, we can just manually do the checking here. So we see that this one ends in 2F56 and 2F4C, which, if we pull out the calculator here, we have F56, F56 minus F4C, which equals 10. So that means on the stack we have 10 bytes. So it means it looks like it's been aligned correctly, so that we have actually in memory 10 bytes, 10 bytes. And I've just drawn a little picture here, just so we remember. So this is our base pointer. We have the instruction. We have the. Let me rerun it here. So you can see here, we push the base pointer onto the stack. We make room of 30 bytes. It gets pushed out this way for the local variables. And then these are them in memory. So when we do the string copy, we have to we go from the lower address, so we write into this buffer, we have to override this command part. So if we go over and have a look, the game plan is that we send 10 bytes of A's just as garbage, which will fill up this buffer part, and then we send bin bash is the actual string in this command section that gets executed. It's important to note here that we also have to have this new line. Why is that? Because this we want string copy to not read anything after this, so we don't want any garbage or anything to be copied in. So we have to send a new line, which, if we have a look in this fgets part, is that whenever we see a new line, we actually replace it with a null terminator. So that gives us the clean payload. So let's go and have a look here, and we'll run it against this one. And there we go. Awesome. Solved it. There we go.